anyone done any mountain climbing or anyone like skydive? Raise your hands if you skydive. We have a couple people. Hang gliding, bungee jumping. Do we have bungee jumpers? How about any people who've done any rock climbing? There were some rock climbers. Mountain biking, surfing. Yeah, so we got a good bunch of adventurers around here. Taking on an adventure is a good challenge for us. It tends to push us in ways that other things won't. However, I do like that Yvon Chouinard's definition. He says we misuse the word adventure. We often go on these trips where we pay for this whole thing, and as we get there, we think we've had an adventure. And he says, no, the word adventure has gotten overused. To me, the adventure is when everything goes wrong, that's when the adventure starts. You think about it. It's like you have a plan, and then when the plan fails, now you're in an adventure. And that, at some level, I want to suggest, is what makes life so exciting. I got into rock climbing back when I was in college. This is Spire Rock. It's not Spire Rock. What happened to my thing? Are we back? There it is. All right, there's Spire Rock. Spire Rock is it's a climbing practice rock that's near Pacific Lutheran University. And when I was there as a freshman, we would go out there all the time. And you see that there's a thing that looks like a Hershey's Kiss on the top. That's like the top of the thing. And there's a crack that goes up towards it so you can practice crack climbing. And I was doing that and moving over, and you're supposed to be all roped up because that actually is about 30 feet high. And at one point, I realized I was just doing some like goofing around, but I was pretty high, and I felt myself slip. And you ever have a fall where you have enough time to know this is going to hurt? You're also beginning to calculate like your mind goes faster than your body at that point. So you're thinking, I'm probably going to land, and I might break an ankle. How is that going to affect, how am I going to be out of work for how long? You're doing all this as you're falling. And the good news is they put this nice soft gravel at the bottom, so when I fell, I just got some bruises. I wasn't actually really injured. But that moment of slipping and falling, knowing here's where my plans have failed and the adventure's going to start, having that experience, we know what that feels like viscerally. I'm just giving you one example from me. That's why when I watch like Alex Honnold, this is still from the documentary called Free Solo. I strongly recommend that you watch this unless you have vertigo, because it's intense. He free soloed with no rope El Capitan in 4 hours, 3,000 vertical feet. He did some of these moves you watch in this where he gets it 60-70% of the time when he's roped up. Now he's going to do the exact same move completely unroped. To put yourself in that place, is that insanity? Is there a little bit of crazy involved in seeking adventure and pushing ourselves to do things that others haven't done? I ask the question because I think about it in terms of this gospel lesson. Jesus calls his disciples together and he sends them out. He sends out 70, 2 by 2. And he gives them really interesting instructions. These are Jesus' travel tips. Don't bring a purse or wallet. You ever got to the airport and realized you just didn't bring your purse or wallet? That would not be a happy moment, right? Don't bring any spare gear. I've been with, a lot of you just traveled with me. You know that I like to travel very light, and some of you not so much. So some of you like to bring extra things. My favorite was when I took a trip to Israel a long time ago, and I was bringing a trip, and I was helping this one woman lug her suitcase all over the place. It was so heavy, I couldn't, she was older, and I wanted to help her. On the last night, before we're going to leave, we're packing, she says, what am I going to do with all this tuna fish? She had brought tuna fish for every day because she didn't know if there was going to be food that she would like there. So she brought cans of tuna fish that I was lugging all over the Holy Land. And I did not have holy thoughts at that moment. Don't bring a second pair of shoes. Do depend on the hospitality of strangers. Right? Bring a message of peace to everyone that you meet. Eat just what you're given, which is really important to say to people who are trying to keep kosher. Just eat whatever is given to you, heal the sick, and if you are rejected, leave peacefully. There's this whole thing about wiping the dust off your feet, but then notice it ends, but even say to those places that reject you, the kingdom has come near, which is exactly what he's also saying to those who he's healing. This is a challenging way to live, right? We're not going to have any of our support structures, all the things I might lean on in case things go south. It seems as though, we know the scout motto is be prepared. Jesus seems to say you can be over-prepared. In fact, maybe that is why sometimes in our Christian lives we don't have the adventure that we hoped for. And we're playing it too safe. We're only trying to accomplish the easily accomplishable. We're not actually daring, risking, and then trusting that how it's going to happen is never your concern. That's God's part of the equation. You see, I think that we have an idolatry to security. We oftentimes want things to be too buttoned up before we're able to move forward. And I am not against planning. I think planning is a great thing. But there are things we cannot plan for. If I would have told you the things that we're seeing now today in the news were things, if I would have told you that like 4 or 5 years ago, you wouldn't have believed me. But yet here we are. And now we're having to react, and hopefully in ways that are loving and are faithful to who we are. How are we going to accomplish witnessing to the unconditional love of Jesus Christ in 2019 here in San Diego? I don't know how. That's God's problem. Our question is to do it. But we have some examples. We have some people who've done it before. The group that just went on the pilgrimage to Eastern Europe, we saw this place. This is the square outside of St. Nikolai Church in Leipzig, Germany. This is where 75,000 people gathered and they sang songs in a peaceful way while the Stasi and the other the reinforcement troops were brought in, and there was a question about whether they were going to mow them down with machine guns. If anybody would have gotten at all violent, if one stone would have been thrown, it would have gone the other way. But they remained peaceful. They remained hopeful. And the Berlin Wall fell 1 month later. This was a way in which music actually liberated the people. And I think about that today in Hong Kong, where we have people that are regularly trying to stand up for what they see as a bill that would be taking away their democracy. They're willing to continue to protest. Some of this protest has not been nonviolent, but they're trying to stand up for what they believe is true. They don't know how it's going to end. Some of them are being called to enter into buildings where they know that they're going to be arrested, and if they get arrested, they also might be tortured. But they're doing it knowing that there's something bigger, that the adventure of their life is being lived out right now. Think about a friend of mine, Kelly Chapman. He's the guy on the right there. He left a very successful job as the director of youth ministry for the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and he went to a poor neighborhood in a small church in northern Minneapolis, and he began to work. He started when there's about 30 people who were gathering, and they weren't sure what they were going to do, but then they recommitted to their neighborhood, and they went out into bold ways. They took on the drug dealers that were in the neighborhood. They took on the extreme poverty. They opened themselves up to saying, we're going to be a church that looks more like our community and spends most of our time making our neighborhood a better place. Now when you go, it's a vibrant place. There's lots of folks. It has grown tremendously. They actually manage about $1 million a year of commercial interest that's happening in their wider community, all bettering people's lives. And here they are at a very cold Black Lives Matter rally, and then also they opened up a neighborhood pizza oven, and they have regular pizza things where people can come and make their own pizzas. This place has engaged their neighborhood. They have gone on the adventure that Jesus calls us to. They have been willing to go without knowing how they were going to get it all done. I think that we run into the danger all the time in our lives as individuals, as families, as a church of the analysis paralysis. There's a lot of reasons to continue to go on. One of the things I think, by the way, and I've shared this with our council, I think that we get along, that is me and the council, because of this. The council has had a habit of being ready, aim, and then just making, maybe never fire. And my approach to life is ready, fire, aim. Right? And so what happens is I need people to help me plan, to help me think through. And I think that the council needs someone like me who's saying, why don't we just get this done? I think that relationship has borne out in good fruit in many ways, and I'm very deeply grateful to those who always put the caution on there, but also are willing to trust and move forward. Witness the great thing that has happened with the way in which that we have navigated the sale of Luther View Apartments. That was an idea that has now turned into a great relationship that has benefited the residents, has given longevity to the mission, and has become an income stream and a way in which we can also continue to minister to the people who are living over there as well. These, by the way, are the 7 last words of the church. It's also the 7 last words of any place where we get stuck in our lives. And I know why. We're afraid to fail. I get it. We lionize and lift up winners in our lives. Winning just feels better. And so we always want success. But you know what? You have to fail to know where your limits are. I love this quote by Thomas Edison. And he's talking about making a light bulb. I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's how we grow. I am asking us to do a couple things in our church. I want us to be a place that parties more than we have meetings. I've told you that. I think that joy is desperately needed in our culture and in our time. So let's make sure we do that. The second thing I want to be a community that risks on behalf of others. So when there's a question, should we, shouldn't we, if it means that it's going to benefit somebody else, even if we don't know how we're going to get it done, that we say yes. Because that is the way forward into God's mission. One of my favorite songwriters is John Prine, and he has this song, Safety Joe. Anyone know Safety Joe? No, just me. All right, so I'm going to read you a couple lyrics here. It says, well, he never got too lonely, and he never got too sad, and he never got too happy, and that's just too bad. He never reached further than his lonely arms would go. He wore a seatbelt around his heart, and they called him Safety Joe. Safety Joe. And the chorus comes around and says, you got to loosen up the buckle on your heart and start to chuckle, or you're going to die of boredom, Safety Joe. Don't be Safety Joe. Don't wrap yourself in bubble wrap. Don't insulate yourself and over-insure yourself. Don't figure out how to make sure that you can control every single factor so that your life comes out the way you think it should, because I guarantee it won't. And Jesus invites us to the adventure of our life, the adventure of our life. We're to go into the world, to travel light, to heal, and to preach peace. Helen Keller said that life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing at all. I believe that all of us, I know I'll speak for myself, and I'm hungry. I'm hungry to be able to have a life of significance and meaning, and it's not going to be found in safe spaces. So we join Jesus on his mission of inclusion, of radical love, of peace and justice, of blessing and healing. I leave you with these words from Yvon Chouinard. To do good, you actually have to do something. May we do something in Jesus' name. Amen. I invite you to a time of reflection.